Good morning, Virgo. Someone who's been treating you as optional is about to shift you to essential, and this isn't going to be subtle, gradual change that you have to squint to notice. This is going to be obvious, undeniable. The kind of shift where their behavior changes so dramatically that you'll wonder what happened to catalyze it. And what happened is they finally realized what they stand to lose. This is someone who's had access to you, maybe romantic interest, maybe friend, maybe someone in your professional or social circle, and they've been taking that access for granted. They've been fitting you into their life when convenient, reaching out when they need something, showing up when it works for their schedule, treating you like you'll always be there whenever they decide to pay attention. But something is about to make them recognize that your availability isn't permanent, that you're not going to wait indefinitely for them to decide you're worth prioritizing, that they're on the verge of losing something they've been too careless to appreciate. And that recognition is going to create urgency. Fear of loss is a powerful motivator, often more powerful than desire for gain. And they're about to experience that fear viscerally enough that it overrides whatever's been keeping them from treating you the way you deserve. Let me describe what it looks like when someone finally wakes up to your value. The shift starts with increased contact. Suddenly, they're reaching out more frequently, texting you first instead of waiting for you to initiate, making plans instead of just responding to your invitations, creating reasons to talk to you instead of only engaging when they happen to cross your path. And the quality of contact changes too. They're not just sending surface level messages or making small talk. They're asking real questions. They're sharing real things. They're creating depth where there was only casual before. Or you notice they're making time for you that they weren't making before. Suddenly, their schedule has openings for you. Suddenly, they're declining other things to be available to you. Suddenly, you're not fighting for scraps of attention between everything else they consider more important. You're becoming the priority instead of a priority, the thing they schedule around instead of the thing they fit in if nothing better is happening. Or their energy toward you is just completely different, more attentive, more present, more invested. When they're with you, they're actually with you, not on their phone, not distracted, not mentally elsewhere. They're focusing on you like you're the most interesting thing in their world because you've finally become exactly that. Some people need to almost lose something before they appreciate having it. They coast on assumption that good things will just remain available indefinitely without effort or investment. And then reality threatens to remove those things, and panic replaces complacency. Let's pause here. This reflection invites you to consider whose casual treatment of you has made you feel like you're not important enough to be prioritized. Maybe someone who only makes time for you when nothing else is happening, who cancels on you without guilt but expects you to be understanding, who keeps you in rotation but never actually chooses you over other options. Or someone who's warm and engaged when you're together but goes silent for days or weeks between interactions, who acts like they really care when they're present but whose absence communicates the opposite. Or someone who takes what you offer, time, attention, emotional support, practical help, but never reciprocates at same level, whose happy to receive, but somehow never has capacity to give back. That's not friendship. That's not romance. That's convenience. And you've been convenient to them without being valuable to them, but that's changing. This reflection invites you to consider if someone suddenly started treating you like priority, would you even want that anymore, or have they lost their chance? There's something specific about what's triggering this shift from optional to priority that matters, because understanding the catalyst helps you evaluate whether the change is sustainable or just temporary. Panic. One major trigger is competition. They've noticed someone else showing interest in you, someone else treating you well, someone else making you smile or occupying your time or being what they've refused to be. And that competition threatens their assumed access to you. Even if they weren't serious about you, the idea of someone else being serious about you creates jealousy or territorial response that makes them suddenly very interested in claiming you. This type of motivation is shaky foundation because what happens when the competition disappears? When the other person backs off or you stop seeming interested in alternatives? Does their prioritization of you continue, or does it fade back to taking you for granted once they feel secure again? People who only value you when someone else wants you don't actually value you. They value winning, or they value having what others want, or they value not losing access even if they're not using it properly. Another trigger is you pulling back. Maybe you've stopped initiating, stopped being as available, stopped performing the role you've been performing in their life. And that withdrawal created void they didn't expect to feel. Suddenly you're not there in the ways they counted on. Suddenly they're experiencing your absence. And absence is revealing what they had, which makes them scramble to restore it before they lose it completely. This motivation is better than competition, but still somewhat reactive. They're responding to loss rather than proactively choosing you. But at least the loss they're responding to is actual recognition of your value rather than just fear of someone else having you. Another trigger is personal growth on their end. Maybe they've been immature, emotionally unavailable, too self focused to properly appreciate anyone. And they've done work therapy, self reflection, life experience that's expanded their capacity to actually see others and value them appropriately. And now that they can actually see, they're looking at you with new eyes and recognizing what they've been taking for granted, recognizing that you're exceptional, recognizing that treating you casually was failing to match your energy with appropriate reciprocation. This motivation is most promising because it's coming from internal change rather than external pressure. Growth-based prioritization tends to be more sustainable than fear-based or competition-based. This reflection invites you to consider what would be most meaningful to you. Someone prioritizing you because they grew enough to recognize your value, because they fear losing you, or because someone else wants you. Let me describe what this shift might actually look like in practical terms, because making you a priority is vague and could mean many things depending on context. In romantic context, it might mean them finally defining the relationship. No more, let's just see where this goes, or I don't like labels, or why do we need to put a name on it? They're ready to call you their partner publicly, introduce you properly, integrate you into their life in official capacity. or it means them matching your investment level. If you've been planning dates, they start planning dates. If you've been reaching out, they start reaching out. If you've been vulnerable, they start being vulnerable. The asymmetry that's characterized the dynamic shifts toward balance. Or it means them sacrificing other things to accommodate you. They're not just fitting you into existing schedule, they're adjusting schedule to prioritize time with you. They're declining things that conflict. They're choosing you over options they used to choose over you. In friendship context, it might mean them showing up for you the way you've been showing up for them, remembering things that matter to you, checking in without you having to initiate, being available during your hard times, not just expecting you to be available during theirs. Or it means them defending you, celebrating you, advocating for you in spaces you're not in, making you feel like they value you, not just in private, but publicly, consistently, in ways that demonstrate you actually matter to them. In professional context, it might mean them recognizing your contributions properly, crediting your work, compensating you fairly, including you in opportunities, treating you like valuable team member rather than disposable resource. Whatever the context, priority looks like consistency, like their words matching their actions, like you being able to count on them instead of always wondering if they'll show up or flake, engage or ghost, care or forget. Priority means you're factored into their decisions automatically instead of being afterthought. Priority means they choose you actively and repeatedly instead of just accepting your presence when you force your way into their awareness. This reflection invites you to consider what specific behaviors would demonstrate to you that someone truly prioritizes you. There's something important about what you should and shouldn't do when this shift happens, because how you respond will determine whether this becomes sustainable dynamic or just temporary performance. First, don't just immediately accept the upgrade without acknowledgement of what preceded it. Don't act like everything's fine now that they're finally treating you well without addressing the fact that they weren't treating you well for extended period. You can appreciate the change while also naming the pattern that preceded it. I'm glad you're making more time for me. I need you to understand that the inconsistency before that was hurtful, and I need to see that this new pattern is sustainable, not just temporary reaction. That's not punishment. That's setting clear expectation that improvement needs to be maintained, not just performed briefly until you stop being upset. Second, don't abandon your standards or boundaries just because they're finally meeting them. If you pulled back because their treatment wasn't acceptable, don't immediately make yourself fully available again just because they've improved. Let them earn their way back to full access by demonstrating sustained change. People often revert to old patterns once they feel secure again. If you make it too easy for them to regain what they lost, you remove the incentive for them to actually maintain the behavior change. Third, watch for whether the prioritization is genuine or performative. Are they actually changing how they operate or just saying the right things while behavior stays mostly the same? Are they making real sacrifices to accommodate you or just doing easy things that cost them nothing? Genuine prioritization looks like trade offs. Like them choosing you when choosing you means not choosing something else they want. Performative prioritization looks like grand gestures that don't require actual sustained effort or sacrifice. Fourth, be honest with yourself about whether you even want to be prioritized by this person anymore. Sometimes people wait so long to step up that by the time they finally do, the person they took for granted has moved on emotionally. You don't owe anyone acceptance of their improved behavior just because they finally improved. If the damage done during the period of being optional was severe enough or lasted long enough, you're allowed to say too little, too late, and maintain your distance. This reflection invites you to consider if someone who's been treating you casually suddenly made you their priority. Would you trust it or would you need to see it sustained over time? Let me address what happens if you do choose to accept their prioritization and rebuild connection on better terms, because that's valid choice if you believe the change is genuine and worth investing in. It requires you to be clear about what you need going forward, not just accepting improved treatment, but explicitly stating what sustained prioritization needs to look like. I need regular communication, not just reaching out when convenient. I need plans made in advance, not just last minute invitations. I need reciprocity and effort, not just me doing all the work. Whatever your specific needs are, name them so they know what maintaining priority status actually requires. It requires you to maintain consequences for reverting to old patterns. If they slip back into treating you casually after a period of prioritization, you need to respond with appropriate boundaries, pulling back again, naming the pattern, potentially ending the connection if it becomes clear the change wasn't sustainable. People often test whether improved behavior is actually required or whether you'll accept old behavior again once you've forgiven them. Don't accept old behavior. Enforce the standard they temporarily met. And it requires you to acknowledge and appreciate genuine effort when you see it. If they're really trying, really changing, really showing up differently, recognize that. Don't punish them forever for past failures if current behavior demonstrates real growth. Relationships of any kind require both accountability for past harm and grace for genuine change. Balance matters. You remain in complete control of whether you accept someone's elevated prioritization of you. You can welcome it or reject it, trust it or require more proof, rebuild or decline to rebuild. All valid choices. The power is yours. It always has been. You may notice reading this has brought someone specific to mind. Maybe someone you've been hoping would finally see your value. Maybe someone whose casual treatment has been hurting you. Maybe recognition that, yes, someone's behavior toward you has been shifting recently. Whatever you're feeling, honor it. Take what resonates, softly release the rest. Trust yourself. Before we close, I want to ask you something. If someone who's been treating you as optional suddenly made you their priority, would that be enough for you? Or would the damage from being optional already be too much? Drop your honest response in the comments. And this, have you ever had someone realize your value only after they almost lost you? And did you give them another chance or had they lost their opportunity? Someone is about to make you their priority is less than #. Zero hash is greater than, and when they do, when their treatment of you shifts from casual to committed, from inconsistent to reliable, from optional to essential, you're going to have to decide whether you want what they're finally offering or whether they waited too long to offer it. Not eventually, soon. The shift is coming. Trust yourself with this trust that you deserve to be prioritized without having to beg for it. Trust that accepting improved treatment doesn't mean pretending past treatment was acceptable. Trust that you can appreciate someone's growth while also protecting yourself from possibility they might regress. See you in the next one. And listen, being made a priority after being treated as optional only matters if the prioritization is sustained. Don't celebrate the initial shift so much that you forget to verify it's permanent before you fully reinvest. Stay boundaried, stay clear, stay worthy. Someone's about to recognize what they almost lost. Decide if you want to be found. Take care.